This is another video posted by North Keppel Island Environmental Education Centre of a 10-minute timed swim. This time it's at Corroboree Island. It's in the Keppel Bay off Central Queensland Capricorn Coast. The entire area includes 14 islands, 13 of which are in the National Park and 2 are restricted due to their scientific values. The link provided at the top is to a video taken at Sloping Island of another 10-minute timed swim, which includes a discussion about Simpson's diversity as well as Eye on the Reef. Many of the islands in the Keppel Bay region are surrounded by fringing reefs with abundant coral communities dominated by fast-growing acropora species. Immediately in this video we're seeing a lot of algal overgrowth on the corals. When the polyps die, macro or turf algae take over, a process that is already evident along much of the Great Barrier Reef. Zooming in here we can see a lot of that bleached white coral and some different fluorescent colours that are starting to pop up. Especially in these warm or nutrient-rich waters, these algae outcompete any coral trying to settle or spread on the reef, taking over areas that corals previously dominated. Just in the video now we can see a large school of fish that is swimming underneath us. They're probably a large group of herbivorous fish. When there aren't enough herbivores like these ones to keep eating the algae, the reef can become overgrown with algae. This puts the reef at risk, undergoing a phase shift from a coral-dominated state to an algae-dominated state. Sadly, once a phase shift has occurred, it's very difficult to shift back due to positive feedback loops. There's much more algal overgrowth on this reef compared to the previous video at Sloping Island, but there's still an equal amount or near equal amount of those fluorescent corals that we start to see, like this pink one that we're about to zoom in on here. Corals generally get their glow from fluorescent pigments that act as a sunblock. The sun's intense rays, which can sunburn swimmers and divers that flock to these reefs, cause similar damage to the coral and zooxanthellae, the symbiotic algae that lives inside the coral. Just while we continue to snorkel, just a little bit about Corroboree Island. It's a blue zone and it's 14 hectares in size. There's an extensive shelving reef along the southern edge of Corroboree with patches of bommies and scattered reef out towards the west.
Very good.
The expression bommy means bombora, an isolated piece of coral. Any of these bommies support a small ecosystem with territorial fish species that live their whole lives there. I'm just zooming in on another really fluorescent piece of coral. I zoomed right in on that one. You can see the difference between the white bleached colour and that vivid sort of, it's almost like a violet colour. It's just really amazing all over the reef. There's blues, there's pinks, there's oranges there down on the left, purples, just all these really crazy colours that are popping up at the moment. It's not just the staghorn corals that are that bleached colour and also with that algal overgrowth you can see, but a lot of those plate corals are suffering those fluorescent colour changes. Part of this video is analysing reef diversity. We want to investigate the factors influencing reef connectivity and make predictions about associated impacts to the diversity. We can do this by using an index to determine rank abundance. This is a handy way to measure diversity of an ecosystem. When comparing biodiversity of ecosystems, we have to consider the number of individuals, the richness and diversity of the species that we're looking at, and the relative abundance or evenness of the different species. A healthy ecosystem often has a high biodiversity and evenness. Dominance of one organism is an indicator of poor health. There's another one of those really bleached corals, and we're almost approaching the halfway point of our 10-minute time swim. Just these really small herbivore fish that are swimming around. There wasn't too many larger fish during this snorkel. But I guess the main goal is to be able to determine the species richness and the species diversities, and we can do that by using Simpson's diversity index. We just duck dived here, and you can see all those bleached plate corals and that staghorn coral overgrowth there. And then just zooming back out, there's lots of algal growth over the top of that, but just large areas of staghorn coral that are competing for that sunlight along this reef. There has been a lot of rain in the previous months, which has certainly cooled down the area. Just snorkeling through here for 10 minutes, there was definitely a noticeable change in the temperature of the water, which is doing massive favours and really good things for the reef. As I was explaining earlier about Corroboree Island, a lot of that reef edge is exposed to the open ocean, so there's a lot of cool water that comes through, and it's constantly flowing through that area. We're just moving on to we're around about the 6-minute mark, just about, of the 10-minute time swim. Just keeping in mind with the 10-minute time swim, while surveying, you use the time to find an area that is representative of the survey site, and you've got to come back to that area, so you do a bit of a 360. So there's a few more of those grazing herbivores that are down there. You're sort of looking for schools or similar looking and sized fish moving slowly along the reef, foraging or grazing close to the coral reef substrate. The most important types to record species are like parrotfish, surgeonfish, rabbitfish or unicorn fish. Also along this reef you're likely to encounter sergeant majors, wrasse, blennies, butterfly fish, angelfish and other beaked coral fish. Just moving along now, we can still see a lot of those plate corals, staghorn corals. We're just zooming in on, again, some of those fluorescent, well, really bleached colours. And then it just changes so quickly from a white to an orange, sort of pinks and yellows. It's all sorts of very strange colours, and you can see some of that algal growth and a lot of that broken down coral that lays on the seabed there. I just wanted to go back and talk a little bit about using Simpson's Diversity Index. Usually to compare ecosystems, we classify ecosystems or we rank them to better manage them. So we use the Simpson's Diversity Index formula to calculate the value for different reefs, to rank them in order of highest diversity to lowest diversity. So we've got the previous video that we took at Sloping Island, which has already been uploaded to YouTube. There's this one, Corroboree Island, and we'll endeavour to post more and more of these so you can get more data for your assignment. And just there, yep, zooming in, it's that real blue coral. It's just such a bright colour, you can clearly see that standing out in amongst the rest. So for Simpson's Diversity Index formula, which I've just put up in the top right hand corner of this video, the capital N is the total number of organisms of all species. The small n equals the number of organisms of one species. And where you go from there, you can answer questions like which reef has the highest species richness, when we use this formula across many different reefs, and also which reef has the lowest species evenness. Yeah, just while I was busy talking there, we just cruised over a giant clam and also some sponge coral. And we're just coming over the oyster rocks there. It's just because when I was snorkeling I was coming in a bit shallow, so I started kicking back out towards the reef. But it really is an interesting reef out. It sort of becomes patchy here and then it really starts to come on. Those were black-lipped oysters. It's quite often we get large stingrays here, cowtail rays. I've seen them on this reef before. We're just coming into the last 2 minutes of our video. Again, there's that sponge coral, that's a really good one. Just coming over that ledge again, there's just more of those bleached corals, those oranges and yellows. Just talking a little bit too about Eye on the Reef. Eye on the Reef, it's a monitoring and assessment program which enables anyone who visits the Great Barrier Reef to contribute to its long-term protection by collecting valuable information about reef health, marine animals and incidents that is used to understand the bigger picture and how we sort of can inform how we manage the reef. There's a number of ways to get involved. Everyone's contribution is welcomed. Even if you come as a student to North Keppel Island Environmental Education Centre or just as a tourist. One of the easiest ways anyone can get involved is by downloading the free Eye on the Reef app, and you can record reef health, animal sightings or incidents. We've come to the end of our 10-minute time swim in our video. Make sure you drop us a like. You can also subscribe to our North Keppel Island Environmental Education YouTube page as well as our Facebook page. Stay tuned as we'll be posting many videos this week and in upcoming weeks. I've also just included at the end of this video what one of those monitoring cards looks like for the Eye on the Reef. All the best, and we'll be in touch soon. Thank you.